Yay! Welcome, welcome to this April Wisdom Talks. I am really excited to be here today with Hope Medford to explore what this is, this wisdom. What is wisdom and truth, right? How do we walk with that in the world today? I was inspired to create this during, I don't know, some months ago, many months ago. I kept thinking, what is wisdom, right? And I kept looking into it, and I'd read one person's idea and another and another. And I'm like, well, what is truth, right? This truth. There's so many people who think they know the truth. What is the truth? What is a truth? How do we come into relation with those notions in a world with so many people, so many ideas? And so I started this Wisdom Talks because I wanted to know. And I figured the best way to get an idea of it was to have conversations with people that I deeply respect and honor and have seen their beautiful, humble walk in the world, sharing their truth and their wisdom. And that brings us today with Hope Medford. Hope is an unstoppable creative force and most known for her international touring percussionist and hand drummer for Nako and Medicine for the People. She also has 3 solo albums of her own and a new one coming out really soon. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it, Hope. Oh my goodness, you'll have to tell us about that. Before her career as a professional musician, she was a licensed and certified midwife. This work inspired her passion for empowering women both on stage and in the birth room as a positive way to transforming our society. Hope is Hope currently teaches birth support doula trainings, creating transformational sacred circles for women and empowering our voices. Hope co-founded and currently co-produces Manifest Music Festival on the Big Island of Hawaii, which features female musicians and artists. Hope's passion for the natural world inspired her to co-found a nonprofit environmental, permaculture, and sustainability education center. And she also served several years on the board of Honor the Earth, protecting indigenous lands of North America. Hope has now just begun writing her first book. Find out about it on her Patreon account. She is actually launching this Patreon account today, so check it out. And I'll pop the Patreon URL in the chat so you can see that and easily click on it. Hope is also a painter for her whole life, primarily creating images of the divine feminine. Her shows are currently in the Wild Artist Gallery in Hilo, Hawaii. And if you want to check out her artwork, go to her website, hopemedford.com, and I'll also get that into the chat for you to easily check. So, Hope, I'm so glad to be here with you today and to get to see you again. It's been some time and to explore what this wisdom. What is wisdom? What is truth? How do we access wisdom and find truth in these somewhat complicated and challenging times that we have all been holding and walking through? A lot of grief, a lot of opportunity and possibility, a lot of challenge. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so
Thank
glad.
you so much, Indigo. It's beautiful to be here and have this opportunity to share and just connect with everybody today in this way. So thank you for the invitation.
So welcome. Yeah, um, it's been an interesting year, right? We all know that so much. And so what have you been, the first thing that's coming through right at this very moment is what have you been doing uh, to work with this world in this way right now, right? And what's going on? How are you holding it? What are you doing? Share with us some of that.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking. What a journey, right? So, wow, I think that beginning with the breath and returning to the breath and always reconnecting with the breath has been such a potent piece and reminder. And for me, as you mentioned, a lot of people know me through my music or through the birth work that I do with women. But before those pieces, I was on a strong spiritual journey from a young age. And I went to India by the time I was 21 and studied Buddhism. And in that time, really studied a lot of breath work and also pranayama and some of the Vedas in the Himalayas. And that those types of practices I do return to when things get really difficult and when things are really feeling like they're pressing down on me. It's interesting how I feel like I kind of laid this mental foundation for myself in those years of practice and daily spiritual practice, all through my 20s up to my 30s, that I'm grateful for now, because when I've become a more activated, touring musician or community activist, and things are constantly moving. And now, as a mother of a small daughter, there's much less time to slow down and fully center in the same way as before those activities began really taking my life onto this faster speed. And so I'm really grateful for the time that was spent, that I was naturally drawn towards when I was younger, and kind of understanding some of those basic Buddhist concepts. So those constantly re-arise for me just in the small things throughout the day. I was thinking about, this question as you invited me here. And one of the first things that came up for me was cloud watching, right? It's this beautiful, so simple practice. And it's become a part of my daily practice. It's actually one of the most consistent daily practices I have, if anything, because sometimes if I don't quite make it to the yoga mat, I'll still try to wake up in the morning, and I usually wake up with the sunrise and have some tea and watch the clouds and watch the sky and listen to the birds singing. And I feel like that's a huge part of actually resetting myself each day. And it wasn't something I recognized as a practice, as a grounding practice and a balancing healthful practice, until I talked with this naturopath friend of mine who I really respect, and she mentioned it as a way of coping with stress and anxiety. And she mentioned cloud watching, and then I thought, oh, I do that every morning. I sit there and I watch the birds land on the wire and the clouds move. And similarly to forest bathing, as soon as we start focusing on water, the ripples moving in the water, these types of natural patterns, when we can relax our mind and actually move into this more theta state, our brain waves can actually go into this more limbic place that I've become pretty familiar with through drumming. That's, it's almost like that place before the dreams or before the trance, where you access more of your subconscious. And it also allows you to do more healing in those deeper places. So, relaxing the mind has been kind of the goal, I feel like, quite a bit in this last year and a half, with so much going on. So yeah, that's a small, simple part of my daily practice that I don't feel like was hard work and took a lot of grit, but naturally rose for me and has been a simple thing that I've been able to keep going.
I love that. I love that you started with sharing about the breath, right? This breath that we all are so intimately connected to, all of us. I breathe the breath you breathe, the breath that she breathes, that he breathes, that the trees breathe, right? That the fishes breathe in the ocean. Even though it's the water breath, it's still the same breath that's cycling around. And then there's the clouds, and the clouds is part of the breath of the planet, right? The planet is breathing and creating this flow of air that moves around, and that moisture, that water then moves with the breath of the world. I love that image.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something, I think, as you're saying that, that's making me realize too about the vastness of that, right? When you look out into the sky, it's that depth of expanse that I think can help us break through the limitations and the confines that so many of us have been feeling this past year, potentially within our own homes or, confined to smaller spaces. So whether it's looking out on the ocean or out onto the trees. But if you don't have those opportunities, then just looking out into the sky, you know, watching the clouds, watching the stars, and feeling that vast depth of where we are very spacious and we can actually expand our energy field into those spaces, as well as you know, reconnecting with the star beings. You know, I feel really grateful that I've been spending this time in Hawaii, and there's a really strong connection here between the local Hawaiians and Pleiades, and believing that they come ancestrally from that place. And it's always so fascinating to think about, well, what does that mean? And when I lived in Oregon for a long time, and Indigo and I were virtually neighbors in that general Cascadia alliance, I had a good friend, Judy Bluehorse, who was a Native American medicine woman, and she spoke about her tribe out there also believed they came from Pleiades, which I thought was amazing. So there's this tribe on the West Coast, and then there's the Hawaiian people here that both believe they come from the same star nation. And so again, it's like, that blows my mind. I can't conceptualize exactly what that even means, but the concept of connecting beyond even our earth, you know, in a healthy way, in a positive way, that there is a relationship that's beyond this physical, tangible, material space, again, that we have felt kind of pressured and confined to. And then we can expand ourselves as we reach out and into this incredible cosmos that in some way or another, every particle, as you said, is interrelated and has created us in this moment.
So truth is connection. There's something about truth being about connection. Connection to the clouds, to the world around us, but to the stars, to the vast unlimitedness that is out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that this other truth is that we are not limited to the beings that we touch and that we see in the mirror, right? When we relax and we go into these deeper states, or we connect with these more expansive states, we can see that we are much bigger and much greater, and that sometimes these limited concepts of who we are really negative thoughts, sometimes coming from outside of ourselves, maybe from, you know, the media, or those that want to manipulate us to feel like we must consume to be okay, to become greater consumers. And but when we shed those things and return to our centers, and yeah, into that inner peace, that's just an energy form, right? The truth is also that we are energy, and that's you know, 80% of water, and that water is reprogrammable in every moment. As we know, like with setting our own intentions, we can completely realign our own molecular structures. So this the truth is also that we're incredibly changeable, even though sometimes we can be convinced that we're so finite. And so that truth is actually, like, we're extremely expansive beings if we allow ourselves to access into and tap into that.
Would you guide us in just a little bit of a breathing and connecting and coming into that alignment that you're talking about? Would you, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, I know that, but I just love to allow myself, I'll be selfish for a moment, but all of us to have that moment, right? To arrive into that place you're speaking of.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me, you're inspiring me. Maybe I'll grab my drum right here since it's handy. This was not pre-planned, by the way. Hope it comes through.
Wisdom isn't planned. Wisdom is in the moment. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking. So let's let everyone close your eyes if you can, and connect with your belly. And as you take a nice slow inhale, let's inhale to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and then exhale to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And inhale again to 3. 1, 2, 3. And exhale to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more time. Inhale to 3. 1, 2, 3. And exhale to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then keep that pattern going where your inhale slowly, but your exhale is longer. And just relax and see if you can find a relaxed way for your body to sit where your feet are grounded, possibly on the floor, but your body feels expansive and open, and let your eyes relax. And as you stay with the breath, let the energy of the breath travel down from your core, from your root, and travel down your legs, down into your feet, and then go beyond. Go down into the earth, down into the cold, dark ground, finding a pathway, continuing down like tree roots. Finding their way between the rocks and between the cracks into the dark places. Feeling your strength as you connect down there into the cold earth. Feeling welcomed, feeling connected, feeling strong. Knowing that that deep magma is below you and you're growing ever towards it and connecting with this energy and the power of the earth. Take another nice deep, long, slow breath in that place. And once you feel yourself connected there, release and relax and feel free to travel back up. Finding your way up through your feet, through your legs, and back to your core. This time going upwards into your heart space. Opening that place in your heart, filling it with warmth. Going from there up into your pituitary, your third eye. Resting there, feeling yourself relax and open. And then out through the top of your head, your crown chakra, like a lotus blooming and emerging, and feeling this white light streaming out, streaming forth, upwards towards the clouds, reaching for the sun, feeling the moon. And as you do, feel that expansiveness of your body all the way down from your roots up towards the clouds and opening through your channel, through your spine. Feeling the molecules expanding, asking for and allowing in the blessings of the sky beings, saying thank you, and feeling their light shining in on all the dark places. Still breathing deeply and relaxing your core. Allow that energy to just float right back down when you're ready, through your crown, through your third eye, and back down into your heart. And then as it fills your heart with warmth, let it start dancing into a spiral in that place. Let the energy spiral through your heart, expanding and growing and glowing, filling you with that warmth of love through your being, reconnecting you with who you truly are, reconnecting you with all beings everywhere, and surrounding you like feathers in a nest, gently holding you, protecting you, and filling you with light. Oh. Hope that was a good one for you. I hope that worked and helped you feel more grounded, more connected. I know I do right now. Good idea, Indigo. Thanks for calling that in. Oh, I can't hear you right now. I think you're muted.
I said, thank you. What a gift for bringing that through to us. This breath, the drum, right? The drum has this beautiful breath, bringing us to the breath of the earth and the breath of the cosmos, right? Speaking that we are all one. There is no separation.
It's a good reminder. There's moments, you know, when I feel like things, when they get really intense, I maybe forget the drum for a moment. And then when I find it again, and, you know, I recognize and realize, like, you know, this has been such an incredible tool for me. And I've been drumming now for 25 years, and in so many different ways, in so many different places, for different ceremonies, and on stages for so many people. And I just love to share the drum. And I studied in Africa and Peru and Brazil, and I feel like I carry a taste of those cultures and those people with me when I play and play their drums, particularly the indigenous drums of those places. But I think about like the ancient shamanic healers, and how the drum is considered one of the oldest healing tools that we have, that we still use and find effective on our planet right now. And when I lived in Senegal in West Africa, I lived with Chon Jup and his family, and his father, Mapate Jup, while I was there, was called to a family's home to heal a woman who was sick. And I was asking him about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to bring my drum and I'm going to go help heal her. And I was like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to drum for her. And it was such an interesting concept that I've thought about that more, of like, wow, I wish I'd asked more specific questions, but I don't know if he would have had a more specific answer or not, because for them, it's a lineage. They are griot. They're born into that lineage of being the only people in their tribe, in their village, I should say, that carry the drums. And so you have to be born into it. And at that time in Africa, at this place. And but also kind of learning more about drumming, and just how, when we think about ourselves and how we have this biorhythm, and how the earth has a biorhythm, and then when we're playing a rhythm and a heartbeat and a rhythm here, and how our rhythms can kind of attune to each other, right, and come into balance. And this actually, when we listen and hear this rhythm, that we start to move into that rhythmic pattern within our own biorhythm. And so it actually does like help us sync up. And when we say, you know, somebody has disease and they're out of balance or out of sync, it like helps us kind of rebalance with this drum. So I do love that you call that in today, Indigo, and just kind of part of this older truth and this more ancient truth, right, that ancient cultures have used for a long time, of acknowledging and recognizing that rhythm is part of what connects us all and that heals us all. And it's this pulse that we're all moving to, including the earth.
You know, this image came into my mind, which just happened, and it was, you know, these pharaohs and queens from once long ago have just been moved from one location in Egypt to another, right? They have a new house to live in. And when they were coming out of the Egyptian museum, there was this whole row of drummers ushering them forth, right? This rhythm this beat that was declaring their presence and their truth, whatever that may be. Right. So, I mean, that just happened in such a way. And it was a very modern ceremony built upon the truths of what was once before and connecting that back so long ago. Then I think of, every culture that right off in my mind, everybody has the drum, right? There's something about the drum. What drew
Yes.
you to the drum? Why the drum? What got you into that?
It was really just well, it was when I was young, when I was in elementary school, I wanted to play the drum. And I honestly don't know why at that time, but I knew I wanted to. And a girlfriend of mine wanted to too. And what I can say is that in Kentucky, as a child, that was a hard thing. That was a hard place to want to play world percussion. And but it was amazing when I finally did find the djembe and this whole plethora of incredible instruments from around the world, from different cultures around the world. It kind of I got exposed to all of it at the same time as a teenager. I was instantly enamored and moved so deeply that I immediately, I think it was less than a month before I was like, I have to have one. And then I amazingly found this African man who had like one master djembe made by a master drum maker in Kentucky, and was able to purchase it from him. And I fell in love with it. And the truth is, I started just, sleeping with it at night. I'm like, how do I say that? I started sleeping. I would cuddle it at night, my djembe, which was huge and heavy, right? And I really felt bonded with so much of the energy of that drum, the tree of the drum, right? The skin, these traditional indigenous drums, it was carved out of one tree, the trunk of a tree. And so it's the spirit of that tree, but also it's the spirit of the animal that the skin, was stretched. And then, the ritual of how these traditional drum makers made them, because that particular drum was still made by a drum maker who was born into that lineage of drum making. Now there's a lot of djembes and drums that are made by different craftsmen, but that's different than people born into the lineage that were taught by their forefathers. But my first teacher was Babatunde Olatunji, and I took a short intensive with him and learned the basics. But then I took that drum, and for the next 2 years, immediately afterwards, I played out in the woods and to the trees and in the forest almost every day, and really just kind of made it my own, and didn't have any other training around it, but just really connected with it in this really personal, intimate way, and just kind of waited to see what would come through. And there's this other piece of truth and the feminine that I love to kind of breathe into and continue to see what arises. And part of why my passion is around honoring the feminine so deeply is because I feel like our global culture needs that right now. We have had a lack of that in our modern culture, and we've been suffering from that. And so for myself with this drum, it's a voice, of course, and it's a tool of connecting with the ancestors and their voices as well. Drum rhythms are mantras, and they have potency embedded into them. They're like keys that unlock certain energetic doors through these patterns and these songs. And so when we access them, we're unlocking this ancestral truth that then helps transform us in this modern world. So it's this incredible opportunity when we use the drum in that way. And of course, it has everything to do with our intention of when we come to a drum or any tool of voice or power. But yeah, so this piece of holding space to see what would come through me, because there was also all the drummers I knew and all the drum teachers I knew were men. And so really wanting to see what a creative spontaneous feminine voice, how that could evolve through this drum and through this tool. And it continues to be a lifelong journey, a creative journey of exploring and finding that out.
Wow. I'm just struck by this voice that you found through the drum, right? And this connection to the divine feminine, and truth that, for without judgment, just knowing it is what it is, traditionally this is an instrument that the man has carried, or the man has made, or the man has drummed into the world. And so you've been walking this path of opening and ushering and calling forth the divine feminine with a tool that has traditionally been a part of the divine masculine's world. I just think there's something so potent about that. So potent. What is your experience around that in the modern world? I know you've been on tour, you've been in the music industry, and I know that you've created this amazing festival manifest. Um, Share more about that and why that was inspired, and what you've learned along your way that way.
Sure. And also, I want to speak to that piece of there's so many layers of history that we have access to, and so many that we don't. And the djembe, like as you said, is traditionally a man's drum, but there is a sister drum to the djembe, and it's the ashiko. And so the ashiko was traditionally a women's drum. And it's also a very powerful drum. And so the djembe was carved, hand carved from the trunk of the tree, but the ashiko was hand carved from the root of the tree. And ashikos can be almost as equally loud and certainly as potent as a djembe. But what's interesting is in our modern culture, nobody's making ashikos. Everybody's making djembes. Everyone's making the masculine oriented drum, but the ashikos are beautiful drums, and they're just a little more like conical shaped, and but they're beautiful and they're powerful and they're still loud and they're potent. And so there were women drumming. There were drums for women, and this is this whole piece that's like really important to reveal. And if anyone wants to go deeper into that, which is always interesting, but Lane Redman wrote a wonderful book called When the Drummers Were Women that starts all the way back in more like Greek and Middle Eastern areas, where there was frame drums, and the first drummers that they found there were women. And there's also a Native American prophecy that I've heard that, the Native American ceremonial drums used to be held by women, and then they were passed to men. And the prophecy says, at some point they will be passed back to the women. So I hear these pieces, here and there, and they're not in the forefront, but because it's part of my world, I keep piecing them together and drawing those, forces of pieces of our history that haven't been spoken about as much, right? And so I do believe that that there are women that have drummed, and but it's been oppressed as women's voices have been oppressed globally. And so this is more, I think, in the last few hundred years, or maybe even in the last 500 to 1,000 years, but that there is a time when women had more common, use of drums in our cultures. But it's still to find out, right? There's still much more to be uncovered there. But nonetheless, there is that pressure of being a woman who is doing something that in modern day and age is not common for women to do. And it has been more challenging, and it's had a more exciting edge possibly as well. So, it's like turning every challenge into an opportunity. But, one of the more challenging moments I would say in my career is sound checks, at professional gigs all across the country, all across the world. There are a lot of sound guys, which I say guys because they usually are men, that don't have the patience to sound check an interesting percussion style drum from a woman on stage. And I came into challenges with that night after night after night on, full-time tour. And it was really interesting to try to even communicate that I knew what my instrument was about and the potency of it and the sound I was going for with these sound guys at Soundcheck. and, you know, being a little bit underestimated. I think that this was a professional instrument and meant to be equally heard with the other instruments and the band. So I think you can understand what I'm saying there. But so that was an edge for me. That's funny. Sometimes I'll still wake up and have these kind of dreams about, like, stress dreams, and it's about sound check. And I'm like, that's why. It's this piece of, you know, really being honored and taken seriously as a woman musician in the professional world. And, you know, this piece about women's voices not being heard equally in politics, you know, in leadership roles. It's the same as, you know, women musicians. And yes, we do see, you know, Madonna and Britney Spears and whoever, but they've often over-sexualized themselves or, you know, compromised an aspect to get into, you know, mainstream pop music. And it's like, what I'm talking about is like raw, authentic women that are holding like a strong voice and still finding their way through the music industry to the, you know, stages and on festivals, you know, that are not just the pretty girl, but are also like potent, you know, holding their voices as women musicians. And so that is what inspired me to start Manifest. Mana means spiritual energy in Hawaiian. So it's a beautiful word, mana. So Manifest, I felt like we were manifesting, you know, something of the ma, right? So Manifest here on Big Island of Hawaii, and it's the end of January every year, but we did let it go this past year rather than trying to do something online. But it would be in its 6th year. So in 2022, it'll be in its 6th year. And what's been so exciting about Manifest for me as co-founder, co-producer, is this incredible weekend of women headlining every act, women teachers. We usually have about 30 bands, about 30 workshops. There's ceremony involved. There's rites of passage for girls. Excuse me. Rites of passage for younger girls, a grandmother's council. There's also a grandfather's council. We have the red tent. We also have a purple tent where gender fluid and men are welcome to teach and lead other perspectives. So we are, you know, all genders are welcome and involved and invited, but the intention is honoring the feminine and the feminine voice. And so it really creates a transformational experience for most people that are witnessing that, to recognize they're not used to seeing that and they didn't even realize it.
It's true, right? Oh, what a gift that is to showcase and really just give the power to the feminine voice to share it out that way.
Yeah, and then the piece of the truth there is, you know, the truth is, as a whole being, we are masculine and feminine. And if our society has been skewed towards the masculine for so long, then we have women that are ashamed of their femininity. And it's not their fault for feeling that shame, because society has told them that being masculine means that you will succeed. And being masculine means you'll make more money and be able to provide for your family. And these basic needs will be met more if you deny your own femininity. Or they've asked us to fully be both. Try to be feminine, look feminine, act feminine, but still work in a way that's masculine and show up and not rest and not take breaks and not relax into, you know, the natural state of the beauty way, of this gentleness. And also the, I find like one of the superpowers of women is also this kind of emotional, telepathic type state, right? Like women naturally are empathetic. And so, but when you relax into that empathy as in a group of women, often women, we know how each other feels. We naturally can communicate easily, and we gracefully know how to interact and bond and form sisterhood very quickly, even often with women we don't know well, when we are able to relax into that feminine quality. And you know, that empathy is so precious to humanity. And I really learned about that when I was brought to Zimbabwe to be a part of an international conference about sustainability. And I was there representing the nonprofit that I co-founded. and the people there in Zimbabwe were talking about Ubuntu, and it was this local concept of the Shoshone people that I am because you are. I am because you are. And they could all read each other's minds all day long, but they didn't recognize that's even what was happening. But it was blowing me away. Like as soon as I had a thought, somebody would say something to me about it. And I was like, wow, I can't believe they knew I felt that way. I can't, but it was just like instant. And, there's this piece of when we relax our minds and truly open our hearts that we all can sense, the energy and emotional bodies of each other are usually very strong. And it made me realize that in American culture, it's not only normal, but it's actually encouraged to shut that down and to have less feelings so that you can actually get by in a way where you might be misrepresenting yourself. You might try to, avoid consequences, right? Like in the business world, it's like you might not live with the same value system as you do when you go to church. You want to be able to turn your emotions on and then turn them off. And our culture is kind of based on, doing that. Like I'm a friend, I'm with my family, I'm emotional, and then I go to work and I pay my taxes and I'm dealing with the government and I'm not emotional anymore. And just how ingrained that actually is in this culture. And it was really sad for me to actually recognize those pieces within myself when I was around them. But it's so I'm not saying it's women only that have that quality, because in this culture in Zimbabwe, it was all men and women completely, but it's a feminine quality. And that's, different than just women. It's just this feminine openness, emotional, empathetic quality that I so appreciate. And that intimacy that we can dive into that is potent and so powerful that we can access. And that access to that energetic is part of our truth as a human, that we are that, and we can be that when we allow ourselves to be.
Yeah. It's so interesting how things spiral around. I'm seeing that spiral behind you on your beautiful drum. This morning, as I'm moving through my morning to come to this moment, my mind is picking up on different threads and pondering thises and that's. And one of the threads that popped in is I was like, I wonder if I just stopped saying I altogether and said we, right? For anything that I did, we. What would it change? How would that feel? What if we all were we and there was no more I? Because there really, yes, I am a unique manifestation. Zara Indigo is what the cosmos is inspiring out of itself through me. But really, I'm porous. I'm no different than my desk and then you. We're all part of this greater we-ness. And so anyway, that's exactly what you're talking about there, is like, how do we come into this recognition that we are both divinely masculine and feminine, that we come from the mother and the father, right? That we can't exist on this planet without the union of those two beautiful aspects. And regardless of the gender fluidity that flows between that there is this, right? That we are in the spectrum together of the we-ness. And it's not just we humans, it's we squirrels and we trees and dare I even say we viruses, because the viruses are here with us. And we're in this, maybe this is touchy, I don't know, but we're in this war against the viruses rather than saying, what do we need to learn from you? What are you here to teach us? How are you helping us be a better we on this planet? I don't know.
Right.
So there's a thread that popped in this morning, and here it's weaving, spiraling back around again.
I love that. And I love that you're bringing that point up again, because there was this moment for me a couple of months into COVID, which I did, take very seriously. Those first few months I was in solid lockdown. I was grateful to have a yard to be outside in, but like we didn't leave. And recognizing, like, those glimpses that I'm sure we've all had, like what are those little openings within the the heaviness of this, where the light is shining through, and kind of seeing those moments where it's like, oh, it's that moment when I'm in the garden and I had the time to plant these seeds that I believed I needed to grow to make sure I could have enough food if something happened, and now, you know, seeing them blossom. And it's, you know, the having more time with my daughter, and having more times to listen to the birds singing, and those little, you know, glimpses that are coming through. And then it started to be this bigger recognition of like, is this really happening on a global scale right now? Are we actually all slowing down? And, you know, when I had these music festivals that were then canceled, and you're not going on tour this summer last year, and there was a part of me at that moment that was in full acceptance. I was like, yeah, I'm just here in my home on my yard, gardening in my garden. And that's what I'm doing now. Like, I'm not a world traveling musician. I'm not going out and teaching the next, you know, doula training. I'm just inward. I'm innerly focused. I'm in my cave with my daughter, and this land that we live on, and that beauty that kind of, you know, came forth out of that, I feel like was that I felt was that feminine force. And I felt like, oh, the virus, amongst other things, is here to actually show all of us about this slowing down, going within, and releasing the chaotic schedules that most of us have been on in so many different ways we haven't even recognized it anymore. And it was funny because I felt like it was a huge blessing to have social media and to stay connected, and, you know, giving thanks for access to internet and all of that. And it was incredible. And having said that, there was then this piece, there's a little bit of an online frenzy. Like, we're all home, so we're staying connected, you know, through the internet. And it's like, just making sure that, you know, that that's just a small part of the day, and that all the time in between, like, we can really connect into nature, into the ground where we are, into the land that we're on, you know, into the sky, the air that we're breathing, and, you know, balancing those two pieces. But yeah, it really did feel like the virus was showing the globe this deeper, slower breath of, wow, if we all slow down, you know, some of the animals are coming back on the planet, and these incredible you know, opportunities for nature to revive, and this feminine teaching, this feminine quality that I would imagine a lot of people might have these little silver linings and blessings that they found through this last year.
So many things carry that, right? That there can be tremendous grief and pain and challenge, but also recognition of the wisdoms that we're learning through all of this. The word fortitude is coming into my mind. There's a fortitude that we're all coming into, but it's coming not through, you know, this kind of pushing energy, but through this sitting back energy, and like, oh, what is this, right? What are we all doing on this planet, spitting through the cosmos at speeds that we don't feel as I sit in my chair here in my home? But boy, we're moving fast, all of us. We're spinning this way, we're spinning this way, and then all of this is spinning in this greater thing, and all of that is I mean, my goodness, the move that's happening right now is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we can arrive into a still point all the same, and stop all the busyness, all this consumptiveness. I keep feeling like that the earth has a certain life force, and it's weighed out amongst various life forms. Humans are one of the life forms. And the more that one life form begins to pull of that life force, then it tips the balance for the other life forms. And I don't know if this is the truth, but it's maybe a truth, right? And so how do we, as humans that are awakening more and more, arriving more and more, how do we recognize that we don't need all the life force, right? How do we calm? And this is, I don't even know the answer. This is one of those big questions, right? How do we come into alignment with the force of the earth's life, so that every action we have as humans is in alignment with that life force? Not just mine and not just yours as humans who want to eat and get the new great thing and travel, right? I'm hoping I get to hop over to Egypt soon, right? I'm hoping, but does the life force of the planet need me to be there? I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It was really interesting. One of the few things that did come through in my news feed, basically, and I was able to put my attention onto was the Dalai Lama started doing these awesome live, talks. And I listened to him one day, and he was talking about, um, the path of humanity, and mentioned that there may not be that many more generations, offhandedly. And I really focused on that point, as it was a small part of a much longer conversation. But for me, it was a standstill moment, because I have a huge amount of respect for the Dalai Lama. I met him a few times when I lived across the street from him in the Himalayas for 6 months. And it was just this piece of, okay, wow, this is so serious, and it's easy for us again and again to forget and choose to forget, because our culture has this train pushing us to forget that all of our tiny choices about not recycling and being wasteful, it's hidden away from us as soon as it's over, because there's money being made by somebody in the process. And that mention by him was, again, like, okay, exactly what you said, like, could we actually all slow down enough to make a difference, to slow down the progression of this incredible consumption of our culture, of the globe, of Mother Nature's resources, and yeah, the drive of humanity to constantly, overdevelop. And so it is this real piece that I think each one of us will just have to continue to really think into. And there's not going to be one moment where there's all the answers. It's going to be a continual journey, that this has just opened the door for us to look into, and reprioritize and revision the world that we want to live in. And really, I think, collaborating with our communities and our neighbors, growing community, working together, working with the land, staying grounded where we are. I do think it does mean less travel, and I absolutely love to travel, but I think it does mean traveling less. And like you said, really evaluating, if I died today and I compared what I've done for the world and what I've consumed in this world, are they at least in balance? Or have I done more for the world than what I've consumed? Or, in my so many years, have I consumed more than what I've given back? Right. And how can we bring these into balance? And I think it would be so beautiful to trust that each human could really look at that scale for themselves, and not judging others, but really be mature enough and have the integrity to really weigh that out. And again, reprioritizing our life with the vision that we all want to co-create, that we all want to live in together, and find new ways. Maybe it's new technologies of how can we use our resources more wisely. How can we create an education that actually redirects our youth towards a culture that is more in balance with nature and each other, and that we are defunding military and weapons, these types of wasteful activities, right? So yeah, I think there's is an exciting time. Again, that Chinese proverb that crisis equals opportunity, and may we use it. I just like to put that out there, that truth of crisis can equal opportunity, when we use our wisdom mind, is fully on the table at this moment for all of humanity.
May we all step up to the table, right? And sit down together in this grand we that we are. I love this notion of the scales, right? This is in my work, for some of you that know me out there who are listening to this now or later. I work a lot with the goddess Ma'at, and she's ancient Egyptian concept before she was personified into a goddess. And she represents truth and balance, right? She represents cosmic order, natural law, reciprocity, right? This, not just reciprocity between humans, but that's what you're talking about. What is my reciprocity for my life, right? For this gift of breath, for this gift of the earth that I eat and I consume, this gift of the fire that burns in my heart and the air that I get to breathe. What am I giving back for this gift? Am I just like, I got born on the planet and so now just gimme, or is it about giving? So
Oh,
it,
beautiful.
it's the
Yeah.
question, right? And I'm calling us to task. Like, come on, let's step up and let's recognize the gift that life is. And if life is a gift, then I have to give back in equal measure. And I'm not perfect. If I look at my list of consumption, I know that there's, boxes from Amazon in my garage, right? There is that. Why did I buy those things? Do I deeply consider my consumption every time I pull something off of the shelf, or I'm not? So these are all questions that we all get to look at and not judge each other, right? What one person may be doing is so deeply impactful but might not be seen, but you also see them do a behavior that maybe is a little bit consumptive, and so we don't know where those balances are tipping, and so we arrive into this compassion for each other, this recognition that we're all here together, we're all sharing, we're all watching the clouds go by, right, and learning in
And I
this.
think it's a time to remember that, like, when we go inward and take this time to have that inward space, that we can really cultivate this deeper love for ourselves. And then we reclaiming our voices, these more truer, deeper voices that maybe have been suppressed by a busy world and society. We reclaim this stronger voice with a fearlessness now when we have this clarity of what the visions we do want to see on the planet, that we really speak up and we move past those previous blocks, because this is a new world and this is a new time, and there is all new opportunities, for creating new jobs, for creating a new deeper sense of community, and for creating new ways of working together to create this new world. So I think I just want to keep re-emphasizing that piece for all of us right now, that this is an incredible opportunity that we're in together, and for people to really take it as much as they can and feel inspired by this, and to feel like this incredible, creative, imaginative mind of humanity, that we can continue to support and encourage this reimagining of how our culture can thrive, and we can have all of our needs met and have our heart filled in a peaceful way that's in balance.
Balance. Mal agrees. He always show up at some point here, and he's shown up to say yes, yes, balance for the human and the four-legged kind and all of us. Well,
Beautiful.
I am just so deeply grateful for you as a human on this planet, sharing and learning and growing and spreading this light, and these truths,
Thank
helping
you.
others. So thank you. And
Yeah, you're welcome.
thank you to everybody who's been popping in and out with us throughout our hour together, and all those who will be seeing this in our future time. It'll be your present tense time, but for us here now, it'll be your future time. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Indigo, for all the work that you do and for holding this space. And it feels so good to share and connect with you today. And just so good to put the emphasis on this, the spiritual valuing, because I feel like that's the one piece that when it's not there, that's what I miss in my life, is having satsang and spiritual community and being able to have these deeper conversations. So thank you for bringing it out in this really simple platform and making it so fun and beautiful, as you always do. Mahalo.
Hello. And everybody, so in the both in Facebook, well, in Facebook is where you'll find it, and also this will be put on to YouTube with Hope's information. And check out this book and their Patreon account and what's coming. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I am coming out with this new book, and both that and a new album that are coming out are going to be released 1st on my Patreon account, which is launching today. So I'm really excited to share that bit. And Patreon is an incredible opportunity to have community involvement and support in the arts, especially at this time when that has been more challenging. So if you want to check out all the stuff I'm doing there, it's ready and waiting for you. And that is at Patreon, patreon.com, and then /Hope Medford. So a lot more to share with you there, but we're looking forward to connecting. And in the very soon future, I'm going to be teaching a next series of doula training, holistic doula training, wild and natural birth classes here in Hawaii at the end of May. And it's possible I'm going to actually be hitting my first music festival in June on the mainland at the Pyro Festival. So right now that is actually scheduled to move forward. So we'll see how things evolve. It's very touchy times, but it looks like that's happening. So much to come. And thank you so much for letting me share today.
Hope. Okay. See you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.